down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch who lived just north of Whoville did not. The Grinch hated Christmas plants and the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos. There was one special Who the Grinch especially hated, the poorest Who that was always berated. Her name was Daisy, and she loved to study plants and nearly always ignored all the rents. But one night it was over the top. She shouldn't have to put up with this. It simply needed to stop. Staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm-lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath.
Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here.
Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming.
I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming. I'll take all their plants. I'll just steal them away.
For tomorrow he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. When they rush down for presents and are all super squirrely, they'll realize to their dismay all their trees and their wreaths and their poinsettias have gone astray.
I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how?
Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea.
I know just what to do.
The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked.
Great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I'll just look like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer.
The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No! The Grinch simply said,
if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead.
So he called his dog Max. Then
Max!
He took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. The Grinch said,
Giddy up!
And the sleigh started down on the homes of the Who played the town. All the windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house in the square, it just happened to be Daisy. He would sure give her a scare. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where Daisy's poinsettias were lined up, all in a row. Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every plant remnant. Cinnamon candles, mistletoe wreaths, popcorn strings, hot cocoa mix, gingerbread men, creamy eggnog, holly with berries, and peppermint sticks. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags up that chimney.
And now,
Grinned the Grinch.
I'll stuff up the tree.
And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who. Little Daisy Who stood up to him boldly, stuck out her hand and said,
How do you do?
The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who botanist who'd got out of bed, but it was not time for breakfast. So she stared at the Grinch and said,
Mr. Grinch, I know that is you. You cannot fool me. I've worked very hard growing this perfect evergreen tree.
But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, he thought it up quick.
Why, dear sweet Daisy,
The fake Santa Claus lied.
there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear, and then once it's fixed, I'll bring it back here.
But this fib did not work, for Daisy could see right through that old Grinch. After all, she was the smartest, most botanical Who of all.
That's okay if one light does not work. Trees do not need that type of light for photosynthesis. Trees and flowers need solar energy to get their nutrients.
Photosynthesis. What's this?
The Grinch had scratching his head.
I think you've lost your marbles. Go back to bed.
Oh, silly Grinch. Photosynthesis is how trees eat by turning CO2 and water into sugars. Also, I have worked hard growing that evergreen tree, so be careful before it gets injuries.
That little thing isn't worth a worry. I'll snatch it up in a hurry,
said the Grinch, thinking he was mighty witty.
This tree is not puny, but a tough gymnosperm, seed-bearing plant with only seeds, nothing flowery or fruity.
So why do you care about all of these plants?
Because plants are just as important as people or animals, but no one takes the time to care for them. They share each of the characteristics of life, 1 through 6.
6. What do we have in common with these plants? I think these are tricks.
Number 1, growth and reproduction. They grow like us, and it's irreversible. Number 2, responsiveness, reactions to environment. Gravitropism and phototropism, just to name a few.
Interrupting the botanist, the Grinch seemed renewed.
Wait, for me this is all new.
Gravitropism happens when the stem grows just up and roots only down, while growing to the light is phototropism.
Oh, I see.
Number 3 is evolution and adaptation, and how they have specific structures, behaviors, and ability to suit life forms to their environment. Number 4 is organized chemical steps to break down and build up molecules, called metabolism.
Wow, just like us, they eat all this Christmas food and do not return to cannibalism?
Well, you could always eat plants. They're all around us too. The last 2 are what we are made of, with organized structure, cells, and organic composition, which includes carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acid.
Everything about these plants just seems quite bad.
What about all these delicious Christmas treats?
She said, looking through the Grinch's bag. Out she pulled some eggnog.
Well, there are no plants in eggnog, just eggs and nog.
Actually, there is one little plant that adds all the flavor. It is called nutmeg. Nutmeg comes from the nutmeg tree native to the Spice Islands and can be found inside the shell. When cracked, out comes a seed which contains the nutmeg.
Well, isn't that just dandy?
Cried out the Grinch.
But how about these gingerbread cookies? No plants would be able to hide in here. It's like candy.
Oh, that is not true. The beginning of this word is hiding beside, why some ginger is inside. Ginger comes from the rhizomes, which are native to the tropical lands. It is ground up tiny into powder like sand.
Well, I was just kidding. I don't like those things anyway. I would just rather drink this hot chocolate any day.
Got you again, Mr. Grinch. Believe it or not, there is a plant pinch. Cacao is the plant which, when the seeds are fermented, roasted, and cracked, then the nibs or leaves are grounded and melted to produce chocolate.
Becoming upset, the Grinch let out a roar.
Everything in this house cannot be a plant or I will soar.
Calm down, Mr. Grinch. There is nothing wrong with plants. Look in your sack and we see what chance.
The Grinch stood there puzzled and unsure what to say. He wanted to rant. He wanted to, but he can't.
I have the cure for you. It is another plant, but this is a plant medicine. 25% of our medicines are plant-derived. Here, eat this.
Don't eat that newspaper, Max. I'm taking my medicine. You
Here.
always have to steal the show. Christmas presents are great. They make Christmas wonderful and beautiful with smells, colors, and tastes. I cannot believe I didn't see this before.